Geek Therapy Radio.
What's going on, geeks? We're all geeks about something, so embrace your inner geek and share your geek things with others. If you're a geek about something, anything, you found a great home here on Geek Therapy Radio, because one day I might be talking about the Blue Angels that just flew over Houston today and some other cities. Or the next day I might be talking about old Palm Pilots, or maybe I might be talking about cars or anything under the sun that we geek out about. Ham radio, SDR radio, maybe you're really into old telephones. Who knows? It is all under the umbrella here of Geek Therapy Radio, because we are all geeks about something. Today, I wanted to talk, at least briefly, we'll see how long I talk about this, but the latest offerings from Microsoft's Surface line. So the Surface Book 3 and the Surface Go 2. The latest Surface Pro as of right now, and it gets so confusing, all these names, Pro, Go, and Book. But the latest Surface Pro right now is the Surface Pro 7. Has similar specs as far as the processor's concerned with the Surface Book 3, and I want to talk about the processor for a moment, and then my glaring butthurt with Microsoft in one very important aspect. So the processors, you can get up to a 10th generation, 10 nanometer Intel Core i7, up to Intel Core i7 1065G7. Now you can also get the i5 1035G4 and the i3 1005G1 processor. And the naming nomenclature for Intel processors is just a nightmare. Also on the Pro 7 and the Book 3, you get up to USB Type 3.2 Gen 2. What a disastrous naming scheme on the USB side of things as well. So the new Surface Book, you get a little bit bigger screen, you options. So you have the 13.5 inch option as well as the 15 inch option. So the 13.5 inch model, the resolution is isn't it 32 by? Yeah, no. It's 3000 by 200. Yeah, 3000 by 200. That's the most wide-angle skinny. It's a strip. It's just a strip about 10 feet long. That's the new Surface Book 3. Now, it's 3000 by 2000, so it's still that awesome aspect ratio. And the 15-inch model is 3240 by 2160, so it's up a little bit of resolution because it's up a bit in screen real estate. You can get the Surface Book 3 configured to up to 32 gigabytes of LPDDR4X RAM, and it comes with an array of storage options, up to 2 terabytes of solid-state storage. Now, this will cost you, in top spec, the Surface Book 3 is $3,400. $3,400. The best graphics card you can get inside of it, the discrete GPU, is a GTX 1660 Ti Max Q with 6 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory, which should make it good for most 1080p 60 frames per second gaming. Although Microsoft is not marketing the Surface Book 3 or the Surface Pro 7 or anything like that towards gamers. It's just part of the versatility, they say, of the laptop, that if you're done doing your work and you're using the Surface Pen and everything, that yes, you can play a few rounds of the newest Call of Duty or whatever you want to play, and it can reasonably with the GTX 1660 Ti at least expect 1080p gaming at 60 frames per second, but it's not inherently a gaming laptop. So $3,400 in top spec. Guess what you still don't get in any Microsoft Surface computer, whether it's obviously the Go or the Pro or the Book. You don't get Thunderbolt 3. You don't get Thunderbolt at all. Not that you would have a lower version of Thunderbolt for some reason, but no, you still don't get Thunderbolt 3. And that is why I continue to be butthurt by the Microsoft Surface range of products. You'd think for the price point, like everybody else, most everybody else, you'd have a Thunderbolt 3 port. No, it really bugs me personally. Maybe it bugs a lot of other people too. I've heard this complaint all over the place, actually, that for that price, they forego the wonderfully versatile Thunderbolt 3 interface for their own proprietary Surface Connect interface. And it makes me want to pull what's remaining of my balding hair out. I don't get it. It's like the Surface line of products. I have an old Surface Pro 3 or Surface Pro 2, and I love that thing. It was from before the days of Thunderbolt's wide acceptance, so I understand that it doesn't have a Thunderbolt port on it. It's an older Surface, but everything else about it, and I'm talking about my old Surface 2 or Surface 3, I forget what it is. Build quality is amazing. The screen's still amazing. The processor is amazing. It is an amazing device. The keyboard is amazing for it. It's wonderful. I cannot recommend enough the option of picking up a used Microsoft Surface at a significant discount. Even the older Microsoft Surfaces. If you need just another throw around computer, auxiliary computer, a used Microsoft Surface would be a great place to look. But new Microsoft Surfaces, no Thunderbolt 3 is ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. And to me, it's kind of the Achilles heel, because everything else about Microsoft Surfaces, whether it's the Book 3 or the Pro 7 or the Go 2, I want to talk about the Surface Go in a moment. Everything else is great. Fit and finish, quality, processor selection, ease of use, everything about it's wonderful. My favorite thing about the Surface line of laptops, and again, I can only speak for the older models, but I would imagine it's just improved over the years, and Surface owners, I'm sure you can agree with me here, is that the speakers and microphones and webcams, any camera on the Surface product, is great. They are all, the microphones in my Surface Pro 2 or Pro 3 sound exquisite for a built-in microphone. The cameras on the front and back are great for a mobile computer. Absolutely, I won't say smartphone class, 100 megapixels, 4K, whatever. No, but they are crisp and sharp and very usable, and the speakers are great and the microphones are great. So as far as for someone who makes podcasts on the road, I would have no problem making a podcast using the built-in microphones and mixing it with the built-in speakers of Surface products. They are wonderful. They are Mac-like in that regard. They are MacBook-like in the high quality of the microphone and the speakers. Now, Macs still have terrible webcams for the most part, arguably, compared to the Surface, but I rest my case a little bit. The audio and the microphone is absolutely exquisite on the Surface line of products. I love all that. I love what they do with the audio-visual side of the computer. I love the fit and finish. It's a high-quality product. Buy it used, though. Get them used, unless you're just a baller and you don't care about Thunderbolt 3. I would imagine, though, and here's why the butt hurt for the Thunderbolt 3. I would imagine if you're spending that much money, it's crippling not to have Thunderbolt 3. The type of person spending that kind of money would want Thunderbolt 3. But Microsoft continues to give the finger, nope, get our dock. Does the dock have Thunderbolt 3? Of course it doesn't have Thunderbolt 3. No, we're using those PCI Express lanes for our own proprietary dock. By the way, the dock costs up to $250 extra on top of the $3,400 machine. You're in it, all the accessories, all told, all together, you're around $4,000 easy for a top-of-the-line Surface Book 3. Man. I should mention out of due diligence that the base model 13.5-inch Surface Book 3 starts at $1,600. Just $1,600. I know some of you might be thinking, that doesn't sound crazy because you can buy a MacBook Pro for $1,600. It's a similar price point is all I'm saying. It's not exact, but it's a similar starting price point and it's similar ending price points. It's no doubt that the Microsoft Surface line of products is directly competitive to MacBooks and Apple's offerings. I would also be remiss if I didn't say, if you're still interested in new Surface products, that the Surface Book 3 at least starts shipping on May 21st. If it were up to me, and I had $2,000 to spend with Team Microsoft, or $2,000 to spend, around $2,000 to spend with Apple, if it's between the Surface Book 3 or Surface Pro or anything like that, I would go to the Apple side. Just me personally. Why? Because of Thunderbolt. And if I still want Windows on there, I will boot camp that. Put Windows 10 on the Mac and call it a day. You have great audio. You have great microphones. Webcam isn't going to be the greatest in the entire universe, but still, as far as a content creation machine, I would go MacBook. Then again, MacBook, at least the 13-inch, doesn't have discrete graphics. But then again, if you spec it all the way up to above $2,000, you do have the better Iris graphics in the MacBook Pro. I'm not in the market for either. My initial thought is that if I had around $2,000 to spend on either a Surface Book, let's be specific. If I had $2,000 around there to spend on a Surface Book 3 or a MacBook Pro, I would probably go MacBook Pro. Actually, you know what? I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up so I'm not just talking straight out of my geek butt. Let's start pricing MacBook Pros, because I know you can definitely get a 13-inch for less than $2,000, but I'm going to look at what does the 16-inch start at, because I don't know where the 16-inch starts from the back of my mind, off the top of my mind. So MacBook Pro 16-inch starts at, go to buy. Yes, Apple, your website is very pretty. I get it. All the things loading. 16-inch starts at, scroll. Oh my gosh. Holy mother of God. Can I spec this out of it? And I know a lot of you listening are thinking, yeah, that's we knew that, you dumb idiot. We knew that it starts at that price. $2,400. Is that? So let's keep it there. If I had $2,400 to spend on a 16-inch MacBook Pro or a Microsoft Surface Book 3, $2,400, I would go Mac at $2,400. I'd go Mac. Well, let's keep it at 13-inch, 13 and a half inch. So the the Microsoft Book 3, Surface Book 3, 13 and a half inch starts at the $1,600. Thereabouts, $1,600. Yep, 13 and a half inch Surface Book 3 starts at $1,600. How far does $1,600 get you on the Mac side of things, on the 13-inch side of things? $1,600 starting point. $1,300. I guess the more important question is, let's see what $1,600 gets you. Okay, so I was trying to see if you can get into the 10th gen processor for $1,600. Can you do it? 8th generation. No, that ain't gonna cut it. So it looks like to get into the 10th generation Intel processor over on the 13-inch side of things, looks like $1,800. Couple $100 more on the MacBook side of things on the 13-inch. Man, so that's tough. That's tough. They're obviously competing against each other. I think I would still go Mac if I'm spending around abouts again. If I'm spending around abouts $2,000, I'd probably go Mac and throw dual boot Windows 10 onto it. That's just me, though. And that's one of the things we get to geek out about on Geek Therapy Radio. What would you do if you... Why is my voice squeaking like that? Rescue Rangers. Like I'm Fievel or something. What would you do if you had $2,000? Would you go Microsoft Surface product, or would you go Apple Mac product? Now, I know a huge caveat there is, well, all of my software only is available on Mac OS. If you're using Final Cut Pro or whatever proprietary software, that's only available on Mac OS. maybe you're most comfortable on Mac OS, then that's not really a question. That's not really up for debate. You're going to stick with the ecosystem that you know best, or you're going to stick with the ecosystem that you can only use. Versus if you're on the Windows and the Microsoft side of things, Windows side of things, actually you can put Windows on a Mac. You could put Windows on a Mac. You can't put Mac OS on a Windows device, at least not easily. You can do a Hackintosh, I'm sure. To my knowledge, there's no Hackintosh, and why would there be on a Microsoft Surface? I could be completely wrong about that. I have never seen anything come up in those terms as a Hackintosh out of a Microsoft Surface product. I'd imagine it's pretty difficult to do something like that. If it's difficult to build a Hackintosh from scratch, it's probably difficult to put Mac OS on a Windows specific device, on a Microsoft specific device. So that's my thoughts. I would lean towards going Mac and putting Windows on a MacBook around $2,000. That's just me. Kind of switching tone here a little bit. Let's talk about the Surface Go 2. I have always found the Surface Go, even though I don't own one, to be a compelling purchase. They start below $500, although I would never in any universe recommend the base model because it has only 64 gigabytes of eMMC storage. And what is it, 4 gigabytes of RAM? Something pathetic, and a pathetic Pentium processor, dual-core Pentium processor. Yeah, 4 gigabytes DDR3 RAM, 64 gigabytes of eMMC storage, and that starts out, I want to say, around $400. Yep, base model available for $399.99, so $400. I would never recommend a base model Surface Go 2 in a million years. The screen is a little larger. They got a little extra screen real estate by shrinking the bezels, because shrink all the bezels. So while the Surface Go is weaker and therefore cheaper all around than its big brother Surface Pro 7 and of course the Surface Book 3, I still find the Surface Go, and it doesn't have Thunderbolt, I still find the Surface Go and the Surface Go 2 compelling, especially when you spec it up a little bit, just a little bit, so you get the 128 gigabytes of true solid state storage, and you get a true Pentium. You get the Intel M3 over the Pentium Gold. So it's not going to be any sort of powerhouse computing machine, but it would still handle multitasking far, far better. No matter what you spend, no matter the entry level, the starting price you spend for a Surface Go 2, let's say you spend $600 or $500 for a decently spec'd M3, 128 gigabyte solid state storage Surface Go 2, and 8 gigabytes of RAM, I should remind you. No matter what your entry point is, no matter your cost of entry to a Surface Go 2, just like the first original Surface Go, the keyboard doesn't come with it, and that's an extra $99 to $130. So no matter what you spend to get in the door with the Surface Go 2, let's say you do spend $500. Well, now you need to have the keyboard. Yes, you can do a Bluetooth keyboard. But if you want the official Microsoft keyboard, which, I mean, why wouldn't you really? It's an extra $100. If you want the dock, it's an extra $250. There's a lighter model that's cheaper. The point is, let's just say all in, and you kept the specs kind of reasonable, and let's say you buy the laptop arbitrary, because I don't know what the mid-tier is going to cost if you want 8 gigabytes of RAM and the 128 gigabyte solid state storage. We don't know exactly what that's going to cost yet. I'm going to guess around $500 to $550. Let's be conservative and say, let's be cheap, and let's say $500. You're still going to need a $100 keyboard with that, not even counting the pen. That's an extra expense. So let's say you're in it for, we can reasonably say you're in a Surface Go 2, a decent Surface Go 2 for around $700. The question you're going to have to ask yourself is, do I want to spend $700 on something like this, which is very much form over function and design over function and portability, or do you know you're going to realize that for $700 you can get a pretty decent, pretty powerful gaming laptop that, yes, it's not going to be as portable. It's not going to have all the fit and finish, but your $700, $600 to $700 can go a lot longer if you're willing to squeeze that balloon of compromise in one area or the other. Are you willing to compromise on weight and portability and fit and finish? Then you can get a lot more powerful machine for $700 if you don't want that thin little tablet experience. If you don't want a Microsoft Surface. And again, this all leads me all the way back around to the used market. While I can never, in good faith, recommend anybody go out and spend that kind of money on a Microsoft Surface almost exclusively because it doesn't come with Thunderbolt 3. If it came with Thunderbolt 3, I wouldn't have anything to say about it. I wouldn't have any qualms. Oh, I bought a Microsoft Surface. What should I buy for $2,000? This or Microsoft Surface? I would have no qualms if it had Thunderbolt 3. That's a huge thing to me. That's a huge, huge issue to me. But that said, used Microsoft Surfaces, if you found a used Microsoft Surface Go for $200 or $300, oof, absolutely get it. That is a masterpiece. You are getting so much machine for that kind of money. Same thing with the Surface Book or the Surface Pro. Instead of jumping in for between $1,600 and $3,400, you can get last year's model for hundreds of dollars less, a fraction of the cost, or even a couple generations old for even a fraction of that. If you buy a used Surface, I think you would be very happy with that, and your dollar would stretch so much further going that used route. And again, it's just because the Thunderbolt thing. It's because it doesn't have Thunderbolt 3. How often are you going to hook up your Surface product to an external GPU or an external Thunderbolt 3 hub or whatever? That's kind of up to you. That's up to you, your case scenario. The Surface Book 3 that has integrated NVIDIA graphics, you won't really need to hook up to an eGPU because you have the 1660 Ti GTX in there, NVIDIA graphics. You won't need to as much, but still, when you're spending that kind of money, you want Thunderbolt 3. You want to know that it's capable of everything and compatible with absolutely everything out there. And if you're spending $3,400 on a Surface product that doesn't have Thunderbolt 3, you are not getting all of that compatibility. You may be getting all that you need for your personal use case scenario, in which case I would say then why not consider some other product from a different manufacturer? Are you held captive in the Microsoft ecosystem? What's keeping you from considering Apple? Then again, that type of person is probably looking for more than just a Facebook machine. Then again, the type of person with that kind of discretionary spending income, yeah, they'll spend $4,000 on a Facebook machine. I think I want a Mac Pro. I'm going to spec it out for $20,000, and then I'm going to spend 99.9% of my time scrolling through Facebook. Because I'm loaded, I'm rich, I can do that. Oh, I want to make a podcast. I better get the best machine I can. Here's $20,000 into a Mac Pro. And here's my $50 USB microphone that I don't know how to use. It sounds silly, but there are people out there that do that. And it's like, yo, hey, can you break me off? Like, I would love to upgrade my computer if you could peel off 1,000. You know, I'll give you credit on my show. Like, I'll advertise whatever you're doing. If you just peel me off $1,000. If you peeled me off $1,000, I could build my dream PC. Not a $20,000 PC to scroll Facebook and record my podcast poorly with. Am I being catty? Am I being catty on Geek Therapy Radio? So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Microsoft Surface line of products. I can't recommend buying it new. I can fully recommend buying them used. I've got a used Surface. I freaking love it. But I would not dream of any universe in which I would spend several $1,000s on a new one. Cannot dream it. If the next generation comes out with Thunderbolt 3 or the next version of Thunderbolt, whatever comes down the pipe, they add some sort of ubiquitous port that works with everything, sure, great. If you have that kind of money, go for it. So butthurt over Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is butthurting me. There's a quote for you. Okay, I usually like to keep... You know what? Yeah, for a smaller story, because I need to wrap it up here. I need to do some other work. A little smaller story. I've talked about Billy Mitchell in the past. Billy Mitchell is suing Twin Galaxies over defamation, that they took down his high score in Donkey Kong. I've talked about it in the past. That suit is still going. It's still proceeding. And it's still sad. I don't have any inherent dislike of Billy Mitchell, but the psychology of it all, it's sad. It's one of the... Does anybody have friends who are friends, and maybe we are like this to some degree, all of us. We don't know that we're doing anything wrong. Everybody around us can see our ailment. Everyone around us can see what we're doing wrong, except for us. We think that we're doing everything right when we're not. We're self-delusioned in that way. I think Billy Mitchell is unfortunately self-delusioned in all of this. Yes, I get that he has to make his income, and he makes his income versus appearances and such, being the high score holder in arcade version of Donkey Kong. I get it. And he's had his name taken off Twin Galaxies official records because the last time he beat the record with 1.6 million points or whatever in Donkey Kong, it was found to be on an emulator. The thing is that no, that's not necessarily cheating. Using an emulator isn't necessarily cheating, but it is against the regulations to hold official high scores. You need to be on official arcade hardware to submit an official score. So is using emulation cheating? Not necessarily. No one is saying that Billy Mitchell definitely cheated by doing the high score in an emulator and trying to pass it off as original hardware. No one's saying that. All Twin Galaxies is saying is it's not an official score because it's not on official hardware. Billy Mitchell is suing over defamation and libel and slander or whatever, but definitely over defamation. And Twin Galaxies is still maintaining, like, dude, this is nothing malicious. We're not accusing you of anything. We're not accusing you of cheating. It's just wasn't on original hardware, so we have to take your name out of official record books. But Billy Mitchell keeps pushing this, keeps pushing it, and it gets sadder and sadder and sadder. You would kind of think, here's me editorializing on this. I mean, I've been editorializing on this, but I'm making the big disclaimer here. Here's my thoughts. If your entire livelihood, if the carpet can be ripped out from under you so easily, and I feel the same thing about YouTubers. A lot of big tech YouTubers I know have side jobs, or they have experience in another industry that if the bottom falls out of YouTube, they can go back to that industry and still maintain a healthy living. You would think that if your main claim to fame and your main source of income comes from getting a high score in one specific video game from 1981 or whatever, you think you'd have diversified your professional portfolio. And I can't speak for Billy Mitchell. I'm sure that he could do any number of jobs. I'm sure his background comes from something that can certainly earn him a living. And if that's the case, why keep pushing this Donkey Kong score issue so far? All you're doing, let's say you win the case. Who's going to hire you for appearances? No one's going to want to touch you with a 10-foot pole even if you win. If you're claiming it has an effect on your livelihood and your income, who's going to hire you if you win? All of this energy over the past few years pushing this case, and how many times could he have beat the high score on a real machine since between now and then? That's all he had to do. He could have done that in a few months probably if he's the champion of the world at Donkey Kong, instead of dragging his own name through the mud. Just get the high score again on real hardware or work towards that. That seems like an easier path to take than dragging your own name through the mud for the past few years. And if this thing is just about principle, boy, that is some self-delusion right there, if that's what this is. All of us are self-delusional to some point. This reeks of self-delusion. Reeks of it. And it's kind of a warning case to all of us. It's kind of a lesson to all of us. Don't Billy Mitchell your way through something. Maybe just get back on the horse and do better. what's the Netflix documentary? The King of Kong? I believe it's that. It's the Billy Mitchell. I try to give people so much of the benefit of the doubt. Documentaries aren't necessarily unbiased when it comes to how they paint an individual. We don't get the whole story. There's an obvious angle. Whatever is sensational about the character, or about the individual, that is the angle that they're going to take. They're not showing the mundane side of things, that they're just a human being like you and I. But based on the documentary, Billy Mitchell is a bit of a curmudgeon that people don't really like to work with. So if he's dragging his own name through the mud, then he's just not doing himself any favors with this. I think he should have got back on the horse and just said, "Oh, okay, you didn't like how I beat the score with, you found out I used an emulator. I already did it once with the real arcade machine. Let me just go back and do it again. Put my name back in the ranks and save face, and save some pride, and save your livelihood. A much better way to save your livelihood." The whole Billy Mitchell thing is just a fascinating study into the human psyche and the human condition. And again, it should be a lesson for us all. How am I being a Billy Mitchell about this? My boss just stressed me down. I did something wrong. Am I going to Billy Mitchell my way through this, or am I going to suck it up and just do the job better? And only we as individuals can ask ourselves that. Are we a Billy Mitchell, or are we going to get back on the horse? Thanks for listening to Geek Therapy Radio. You've been wonderful. I can hear you clapping and booing, whatever you're doing. Hey, that rhymes in the background there. We're all geeks about something. Embrace your inner geek. Know that you are worthy of love, both giving and receiving love, and you are worthy of your own self-confidence and your own self-worth. And until next time, I'll talk to you then.